Hello all. I was asked on Instagram to do a little breakdown of the astrology of Hurricane Ian. I've heard from several Floridians, but this particular person, he said, oh, let me read it, sorry. He said he'd never, well, they'd all said they'd never seen anything like it in their lives. Yeah, he just said, have not seen a hurricane like this in my lifetime. He's a Florida native, born when Hurricane Andrew made landfall, and Florida will be an island at some point, he said. So I'm going to give my view of this. Well, this is the chart of the landfall, which, you know, that's the chart I'm going to use. I had in yesterday's forecast said that it was going to be as bad as predicted, and there's several reasons why. This is my opinion. The moon was in Scorpio, and we've currently got the nodes in Scorpio and Taurus. Now, Scorpio is deep, deep water. And the moon in Scorpio made some quite powerful aspects yesterday. So let me just break those down a little bit. Because I'm doing this the day after, I'm doing this on the 29th. So the moon yesterday was making a big watery grand trine. I used some of the asteroids. So over here in Cancer, we had Hecate, which is, she's the way shower. She's the triple moon goddess. She was said to have a destructive side as well. We also have Pallas Athena, the wise owl, the warrior, giving us strategies. But this is all in Cancer, by the way, the sign of the home, safety, security, protection. And of course, water is just emotional. Then we've got Black Moon Lilith, and she can be quite ragey and angry. Now, I'm finding a lot of the feminine, so-called feminine energies in the chart are very active during these events, especially around how we're treating the earth and climate change. And it's, I'm not going to argue with anybody about this, but the science basically says that man-made climate change is exacerbating climate change, at least, if not causing it. I have theories about Ceres. I've done a whole presentation on it, and I will be doing a masterclass, and I'll be talking about her in a minute. But anyway, also in this water grand trine, we have Juno, which is our sacred marriage to each other and all that is. And then we have Nessus, Centaur Nessus, and that's the buck stops here. And then this morning, on the 29th, the moon will come up and trine Neptune in Pisces, and Neptune is vast water, because Neptune is the modern ruler of Pisces. And so we had, for a start, and then the moon, as landfall came, the moon was about to conjunct the south node and forming this watery grand trine. And the tidal surge, the flood levels were huge. We saw houses being washed away. That's kind of the watery kind of element going on. So we had that for a start. Okay. Then the moon later on would have come up to square Saturn in Aquarius, which is air, of course, and oppose Uranus. And this Saturn-Uranus square, we had 3 exact Saturn-Uranus squares in 2021, but the 2 are almost exactly conjunct again. They're never quite going to get exactly conjunct. But as the water went onto the land, the moon formed a T-square to Saturn and Uranus, causing structural devastation, shock, somebody, trauma as well. One of my friends who's in Florida said we're okay, but it was very traumatic. This is a very traumatic event. So the Saturn-Uranus square is almost exact again. So we're seeing that activated during this hurricane as well. There's so much happening, but that was the water, continuing today, continuing more flooding. Another point is that Pluto is rising in the chart, and Pluto is stationing to go direct on October the 8th. So he's slowing down, and Pluto tends to dig in. So there's that too. I also forgot to mention that Scorpio and Aquarius and Taurus are all fixed signs, which tends to dig in. And this hurricane was just huge and also kind of did not move fast. It kind of really was slow and kind of hovered over the area, dumping all this water and wind and devastation. Another thing that was happening is, you may have seen in the news or on some astrology pages, Jupiter was closest to Earth for the first than it has been since 1959, and will be again not this close until 170 years time, if that makes sense. Anyway, this week Jupiter is closest to Earth, and it was opposing the Sun, making that energy huge. This could help explain the sheer size of Hurricane Ian. All right. Another thing, though, is that we had Ceres, Venus, and we have Sedna at the 29th degree of signs, anaretic degrees. And they're all kind of aspecting Pluto a little bit too, by 3 degrees. Pluto and Sedna have been in this trine for quite some time, and it's still in orb. But anaretic degrees are critical degrees. Now, Sedna has an 11,400 year orbit, and that takes us back to the end of the Great Ice Ages, when humans went from being hunter-gatherers to being farmers and arable and planting and so on. And so I associate Sedna hugely with big cycles of climate change, and she's in Taurus, which is Venus ruled, and I see Taurus as very much the sign, the Earth sign that's most connected with the material Earth. Then we've got Ceres, who is also connected with kind of food waste, shortages. Ceres is about grief and loss, but also I've seen her connected with climate change. As I said, I did a presentation on her, and I will be doing a masterclass. She was discovered in January the 1st, 1801, right during the Industrial Age, and there's no doubt that climate change has sped up since the Industrial Age, since we've been pumping dirt out into the air and industrialized farming and all that kind of stuff. The internal combustion engine has made us able, and it was seen as progress, of course, unwittingly, and yet it's caused a lot of the issues that we have now. This was in square almost exactly as the hurricane made landfall by 4 minutes. And then I said Venus rules Taurus. Venus was at the anaretic degree, the last degree of Virgo, and Virgo is very much about holistic health, but Virgo is another earth sign, and Venus is combust the sun, so she's a bit burned out here as well. So the combination of these things were just causing this kind of perfect storm. There's a lot more I could say, of course, but To look at the angles, we had Capricorn, and I'm going to blow your mind in a second as well, as to kind of what activated it, where it did at that moment. So, you know, there's a lot more I could say, but I'm going to just quickly say there was a Scorpio midheaven, that deep water, Capricorn, Earth on the ascendant, and structures, kind of devastating the structures. But now I want to bring in another chart. Around the outside, this is the point of the what's called the Venus star point, the last Venus conjunction with the Sun that was on January the 8th, 2022, when Venus became morning star, which is the kind of more aggressive kind of morning star. And while we've had the morning star, of course, we had the war starting in Ukraine. She's more kind of warrior Venus. Venus is not always all sugar and light. That Venus star point in January was at 18 degrees, 43 minutes. Just and the ascendant of the landfall chart was just 7 minutes from that star point. And this is as Venus is ending this period. It's a 9.5 month period between Venus star points. We have the first Libra star point coming up on October the 22nd. The first one since the last one was at 0 Libra in 1879. We're going to have just over 100 years of Libra star points beginning on October the 22nd. So we're going through a major shift, and the star points are both active in this chart. On the landfall, we have Haumea, which is birth and fertility, very close to the top of the chart. She is rebirth. I kind of feel like we're finally starting to get the message from these things. Okay, but anyway, whether we are or not, I don't know. But there's a couple of other things I want to say. Pluto. I said Pluto is rising, and Pluto tends to churn things up and cause big discord, especially when Pluto is stationing, and he's stationing to go direct soon. He's at the same position as Pluto was on that star point by 3 minutes. All right. He was direct then, retrograde now. So this to me is demonstrating the power of the star points. This was almost a perfect storm that was set up at the point of the star point earlier in the year. And whilst there's much more I could say, those two things alone are just astounding. I could add in that Black Moon Lilith is of that star on the day of the star point is conjunct Mars in Gemini. That speaks to this is a very angry storm, causing a lot of damage and devastation to a community, which is Gemini. So many things. One other thing I forgot to mention about the landfall chart is going back to Pluto again. Pluto and Eris had 5 exact squares in the year 2020 into 2021. Now those two are as close to an exact square as they're going to get before they too separate and move far apart. So we've got the Saturn-Uranus square active again, which is very tense and very damaging, and the Pluto-Eris square, Eris being the goddess of discord. We've also got the North Node and Uranus in the house of the home. So security, safety, how many people are losing their homes in this? So, you know, I'm sure there's other astrologers can tell you lots more things, but to my mind, there was so many elements to this that I looked at the chart as this was approaching, and I was like, this is going to be as bad, if not worse, than they are predicting, because I know over recent years, there's been a reputation for some of the forecasts to predict this really bad thing, and it's never been quite as bad from the outside as predicted. This one was. I hate to think what's going to be discovered and found during the cleanup, but I hope there's not much loss of life. But I hope that kind of helps to explain this hurricane, to my mind, is just symbolic of the big cycles of climate change that we're experiencing, and it all kind of came in to Florida, unfortunately. I'm kind of hoping this upcoming Venus star point will mean that we're going to start balancing our lives again and learn the lessons of these things. So thanks for listening. I will talk to you next time.